We're continuing to talk about the topic of religious discrimination. Let's go into a couple of other aspects of it. Should the government be involved in the process? Well, this employment law class really deals with the workplace itself. But we have to sit down and make certain that we're enforcing the law, and the government should be the conveyor of law to make sure it's in alignment with the Constitution as to what we are. So if you take a look over here, you look at respondents. Is there some form of discrimination based on religion? You'll see actually that some people believe that there is. So this is real. It is not one of those issues that we can sweep underneath the rug. If it happens, we need to listen to what's going on, investigate, and make certain that freedom of religion and its practice does not interfere with the workplace. That's number one. And number two, that it doesn't interfere with the rights of other people. You shouldn't be giving one group the rights and excluding other groups in the process. We're supposed to be a free society. So with that, in the public sector, there's all kinds of guarantees of due process. And by the way, I'm a big believer in due process, and I think it really, if you're in the private sector, you should pay attention to the public sector. Yes, sometimes it goes overboard, but it does protect you from being sued in the process. So due process is a good idea. Equal protection and freedom of religion, it applies at all levels of government because they're all covered by federal law clearly. Title VII is the only legislation focusing in on religious discrimination in private employment as well. There's a concept called reasonable accommodation and undue burden. These are two concepts that apply in both the public and the private sector, and you'll see this happening also not just in the area of religion, but also in the Americans with Disability Act as to how we define duty. So religious organizations, they have internal employment practices that are exempt from the prohibitions found in Title VII. A couple of them, and it's interesting how sometimes the government will step in and try to go into the world of religion and try to impose their own personal views as to, we are the state, we are the ultimate power, and we're going to make you do this. Well, all your religious institutions feel that they answer to a higher authority and have a right to run their facilities and their organizations the way that their God figure that they have there would be the one that they have to answer to instead of the government. So you have this kind of conflict that will happen occasionally where you have misguided public officials trying to impose their will or their beliefs in other organizations. If you look as to what is involved, it's called a bona fide occupational qualification, BFOQ. You need to know what that is if you work in the world of employment law. One of the cases over here, Church of Latter-day Saints, sometimes we refer to them as Mormons, versus Amos. They had a gym janitor was terminated because he didn't qualify for a temple recommendation in their religious faith. That would be a certificate indicating he was a member of their church and eligible to attend its temples. They felt that his duties as an employee, because of the fact he was not part of their religious faith, nor could he participate in their religious faith, that they did not want him working among their gym, their different facilities, or anything else, so they terminated his employment. That's it. Well, they turned around and there was a lawsuit involved, and the court said the church has the right, a bona fide occupational qualification, to say that all of its employees need to be members of the church. You have a ministerial exception also. Here we have a case that took place in Michigan. It really deals with the EEOC suing the church because somebody had been off for a year and they came back. They felt that they were called to be part of the school staff, and this was their ministry. They were off for an entire year. They came back. The church chose not to terminate the substitute they had, and they would not rehire her. She sued. Well, actually, the EEOC sued on her behalf, and the courts again affirmed that the court has a bona fide occupational qualification, and they called it a ministerial exception, that they have authority to determine who their religious leaders are, since this employee was a called person, okay, and they would apply their religious dictates even when they conflict with workplace anti-discrimination laws. Here you have Little Sisters of Poor Saints Peter and Paul Home versus Pennsylvania. It really focused in when they passed the aspect of the Affordable Care Act, and part of the Affordable Care Act was a provision that all insurance policies from an employer would cover contraceptive coverage. The Roman Catholic Church believes that this would be a violation of the body, and that is actually part of the overall religious faith, especially of nuns. Therefore, they sued, they challenged the aspect of the exceptions, and Supreme Court upheld the regulations that allowed religious employers to bow out of it because of religious objections. So you have this aspect of traditional religious faith with the state on a regular basis interfering with other aspects of it. So you'll have that. You'll also have individuals doing this as well. So be cautious is the best way, because this is a very volatile area. So on the religious discrimination, okay, there's incidents of Muslim drivers with anti-Semitic slurs. Soon as the driver gets behind that wheel, okay, they don't have a business because they're being employed. Okay, they should not be having anti-Semitic slurs or Christian slurs or even that other ones, because of the fact that that is now a workplace and the employer has the right to control that. You have different aspects of the workplace conflict dealing with the Jewish faith as well as religious attire and practices. You have all those aspects of it. So you have a lot of unintended consequences, but the person, whether it's a driver, whether it's a passenger, they should, during the term of their employment, be able to exercise their own religious faith, but not attack other people's faith or try to proselytize them within the workplace itself. Two key considerations when you're looking at this: the belief must be closely held by the employee. It's not just, I was born this way, my parents were this, I must have that too. No, it's got to be something they do. If they profess that they follow this pathway of religion, then are they attending services for that religion on a regular basis? Is there anything that they can point to in their life that this is actually a belief and not something they happen to add on to their name or their resume because they wanted to pursue a claim? Does it take place on a regular basis in the employee's life? Are there any particular beliefs or attendance required because of the religious faith? Now, by the way, atheism and humanism are actually already defined by the Supreme Court as a religion for Title VII purposes. You have that aspect too. So here's a couple law cases to take a look at, to read about, to see what is out there in the aspect of what you have to accommodate. There is a duty of good faith by the employer to reasonably accommodate an employee. Now, that doesn't mean you shut down work because somebody has to go and attend a religious service. Okay, you have to sit down and make certain it's reasonable, but if it impacts the overall function of your business, especially on a regular basis, I have to be off every single Friday. Well, okay, if your store is open, if your business is open on Friday, that person, if they have to be off that way, maybe they shouldn't be working there. Okay, if you can't accommodate that, then you have a right to sit down and do what's best for your business. So pay attention to exactly what this is, explore it, make certain you have legal counsel on. This is a class on employment law. I'm not giving legal advice because each case is unique and different. Look on the religious practice, not the religious belief. What they believe, you should not be judging and critical of. You have to sit down and look as to how it affects the workplace. How does it affect other employees in the workplace? That is your job, and we call that a duty of good faith. So what is it? You want to limit the reasonable accommodation duty, make certain it doesn't put an undue burden. The example of every Friday, that's a problem. That is an undue burden. The employer had to do too much to satisfy that duty. At least they listen to it and everything in the process, say, I'm sorry, we're open on Friday and you need to be here. I cannot have you gone 52 weeks, 52 Fridays out of those 52 weeks all the time. I need you here. If you can't do that, then I'm sorry. And you have the legal right to sit down there and dismiss them. But make certain that you have a good hearing. Make certain you have sound legal advice. Can you decorate your own cubicle with your religious artifacts? Can somebody hang a religious pamphlet, a picture in their cubicle? The answer is yes. provided that it is their personal space and it's not making a publicity aspect of it. Can they hang it outside your cubicle? No! They can hang it inside your cubicle. This is another aspect of it. Make certain you're checking with your human resource department, or if you are your human resource department, make certain that you have good counseling, you know what's going on, and that the decoration is not interfering with the impact of the workplace. If that person is talking to clients and customers on a regular basis in their cubicle, you have to go back and take a look, because you may all of a sudden be turning people off in the aspect of somebody trying to proselytize somebody else in the workplace, and you have to pay attention to what are the rights of that individual that's the employee, as well as your clients in the process. So be cautious on this area, except for the fact, do they have the legal right? The answer is yes. People have the right to practice their faith without interference from the government, including the state government, including the federal government, at least in the United States. Okay, the employer needs to ensure they follow the law, but also the intent of the law as well. Religious organizations have internal self-governance, and this, for good or bad, is a growing area of law. Take care.